Howdy, folks. Cameron back with a super informative video. So today we're going to talk about the number one predictor, according to very recent research, the number one predictor of how long you're going to live. And I'm going to give you some choices, and you can feel free to add your own in here too. All right. So the number one predictor, here are your choices of how long you're going to live. It's cancer, Alzheimer's, if you smoke, if you have high blood pressure, if you have cardiovascular disease, heart disease, diabetes, or kidney disease, maybe. Did I say high blood pressure? And if you smoke and anything else you want to add, feel free to throw that in there too. So which one of those is the greatest predictor of how long you're going to live? And whatever one of those you choose, or whatever one that you've added on your own, I am going to say that that is incorrect. And the answer is VO2 max. And you're probably like, what in the world is VO2 max? You probably are somewhat familiar with it. You know that athletes do it. They're in a lab and they have this oxygen mask on and they have this hose that runs to a machine and it's collecting data. And the researcher or scientists read the data and that determines your VO2 max. Well, that would be accurate, but what is it? What is it? Think of it as a measure of your overall aerobic fitness. It's the size of your engine, so to speak, size of your engine. And it tells you, I'm going to expand on that a little bit. It tells you how efficiently your body can take and deliver oxygen to the muscles. So what happens is you're doing your exercise, and your body pulls oxygen from the air, gets it into into the lungs first, and then from there, process assimilates, does its thing, and then it pushes it out into the circulation, and then from there it ends up in the muscles to use for energy, for movement, for exercise. And the higher your VO2 max is, that just means the more your body can most efficiently use oxygen. And the better your endurance and cardiovascular fitness, the higher your VO2 max is. But why is it so important? So if you have a high VO2 max or higher VO2 max, that means your heart and your lungs are functioning well, which clearly reduces the risk of cardiovascular disease. And that goes the same. That's the same with overall fitness in general. And as we, I even hate saying this word, but as we age, the higher your studies, remember, these are studies, the higher your VO2 max, the more active we are, which leads to more independence, i.e. less nursing home cares for individuals, less nursing home care. Guys, that's our goal, man. We don't want to just live long. We can go in any nursing home in the country and see 90-year-olds. But what the hell? That is zero quality of life. They're sitting there with drool on their chin and crap in their diapers. And I'm not trying to be ugly or disrespectful, but what I'm simply saying to you is there are people in life insurance business that they predict the risk of how long you're going to live based on your activity. And they are the ones that tell us, they can look at you right now. You can give them a 30-second history of what you've done your entire life, and they can tell you with frighteningly accurate certainty how long you're going to live, almost to the month. They can definitely tell you the year, but to the month. That is frightening. So what I'm trying to say is longevity studies have shown that the higher VO2 max is clearly associated with a lower risk of premature death. And if you think about it, if you have a higher VO2 max, you're going to be able to do a lot of things. Most of your ADLs, activities of daily life, on a much easier level. Okay, so how do we increase VO2 max? Well, you can actually do it in a number of different ways, but the first and probably the most obvious way is aerobic exercise. Now, when we're increasing VO2 max, and you have one right now, by the way, just because you don't exercise or do cardio doesn't mean you don't have a VO2 max. If you sit at a desk all day, you have a VO2 max, now, albeit it's going to be really, really, really low, but you can increase that. Every single one of us, myself included, let's say you don't do any exercise, you never have, you sit in a chair all day, all of us can be at the 25th percentile of our age group for VO2 max. And that's really, really high, but it's definitely doable. I'm one notch below that now. But this is interesting. I don't want you to think for one second, if you are that person that you sit in a desk all day and that you haven't been doing exercise, but you're like, hey, this sounds pretty significant, this VO2 max thing. Let me check into it. Don't think for one second that if you don't have a base that you can't build a base, because that is completely false. As a matter of fact, it is going to be easier for you to build your VO2 max and increase it than it is for me, because I already have a base. It's the same thing with muscle mass. I already have a really solid base of lean muscle. So for me to add even a half a pound of muscle, it's going to be way more challenging to do that than it would be, let's say, for you, excuse me, or someone else that has no knowledge of how to even do it, much less possesses it at this time. So you can absolutely do it, but you have to start now if you want a chance of increasing your health span. And VO2 max, again, is measured in a number of different ways, but the way to do it is first build a base. And you've heard, I'm sure, of all of the factors of zone 1 cardio, zone 2, zone 3, and so on and so forth. Well, we want to be in zone 2 for about 3 times a week. 45 minutes 3 times a week, and what that looks like. And you can look at heart rate and all of that. But instead of going and researching, the best way to do it is if you're running, you're walking, you're cycling, whatever type of exercise that you choose to build your base, you should be able to carry on a conversation just like I'm doing with you now. But it should be challenging, and you should probably be talking like this and then have to take another breath. If you're like this, like, can't even breathe, you're going too hard. But then on the flip side of that, if you're talking just like this and you're not really even having to slow down to take a breath, that's zone 1. So you want to be in that zone where you can carry on a conversation, but you're talking like this and you can get out short sentences. That would be a beautiful place to start for you if you want to start increasing your VO2 max. And then once you get that base, then we're going to consider incorporating high intensity interval training to increase the base. And you've all heard the acronym HIIT, high intensity interval training. Short bursts of really intense exercise followed by super low intensity or a rest period. And like I said, there are other ways to do it as well. A lot of people, myself included, when I strength train, when I'm lifting weights, my heart rate is through the roof because I lift really heavy shit. So that actually qualifies for increasing VO2 max. And don't think for a second that you can cheat VO2 max. You absolutely cannot do that. And what do I mean by that? All right, well, let's say you go to the doctor and you get evaluated, your nutrient status, all your A, B, C, D, E, F, G, P, Q, R, S, T, all your vitamins, your nutrient deficiencies, or hopefully your optimal status. And let's see, let me pick one. D, that's a very common one. So you have your vitamin D levels checked. And they say, you know what, Kim, you know what, John, your levels came back and your vitamin D is too low. take these pills, and then we're going to test again in a month. And you go back, and then your levels, what do they show in a month? They show adequate. Okay, good. That's where we want to be. You can't do that with VO2 max. You can't expect to do one or two or even a month of exercise and have optimal status of VO2 max. VO2 max, it absolutely will have increased, but not to any measurable degree that will extend your lifespan or health span for all intents and purposes, what we're talking about here. So you have to do the right type of cardio to build your base. And then once you build that base, then you can consider increasing it into that. Remember, we talked about that 25 percentile that we all should strive to be in, which we can. Once you get there, that's when it's proven to extend your lifespan or extend your life. And in addition to health span, because then we're staving off frailty and fragility and and all of the really bad shit that's going to happen to you if you're not doing these things that we're talking about. But gradually increase the intensity and the duration of your endurance, because remember, endurance, that's just VO2 max. And a lot of people have said to me, oh my God, I can't imagine getting on a treadmill every day, or I can't imagine getting on a bike every day. Hey, that's okay. I get bored too. Mix it up. You can do cardio, you can build your base, you can increase your VO2 max to a higher percentage with any different type of cardio if you make it challenging enough. So mix it up by all means. Don't just sit on a bike for 4 months and get bored out of your gourd and decide that you're going to give up. Excuse me, because that's a surefire way to make you go, I'm not going to the gym today. I'm just not going. I'm bored. I'm bored to tears and I'm not going to go. So please don't do that. So what are my recommendations for you? If you're 40-ish or above, you probably are if you're watching this video, I would recommend that you start slow, especially if you've been inactive. We just talked about this. You have to start slow. You can't come out of the chute like a racehorse. You can't do it. Start slow, low intensity activities, gradually stair step your way up to, let's say, intermediate level of VO2 max. And by the way, here's the chart. If you want that, please send me a message and I'll shoot that over to you. And, all the usual stuff too. You got to stay hydrated. You got to eat well. You've got to probably check with your practitioner to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. And if they tell you that VO2 max is not important, what are you doing? Just do cardio, find somebody else. Because that is absolutely outdated, false information that they're telling you. Guys, this is a thing. We have to be advocates of our own health. We don't want to end up in a nursing home dependent on somebody else to wipe our ass or feed us. I mean, we want to be strong. We want to be independent. We want to be healthy. And all of the stuff that I share with you is the way to do that. So by all means, reach out to me if you want the chart I was telling you about. If you have questions about VO2 max, if you say, hey, Cameron, this is where I'm at, but I want to go here. How do I do that? And I can certainly help you the best that I can. And if you want to take it a step farther, I have a program, Prevent Unidentified Early Death, that incorporates a specific type of cardio to increase VO2 max. You're not going to be on your own. I prescribe everything to the T for you. And clearly, it's not one component. We have a lot of contributing factors to this program that make it so effective for not only identifying what's going on with you now that you can't see or that other practitioners have missed, but to figure out, hey, these are the trends. This is something we might want to consider addressing now before it becomes a problem later. And then we incorporate, like I said, the right type of exercise to increase VO2 max, muscle mass to stave off frailty and fragility, and build good, solid basis for both. And again, other parts of the program that include sleep, emotional stress, and metabolic dysfunction, which is massive. We also do a functional blood chemistry analysis. So if you want to know more about that and to get healthy, reach out to me. Guys, I can help you, but you've got to ask for the help. So that's all I got for you today. I hope this was informative, and I hope you're like, maybe something I need to look into. So I hope you're going to have a good day, and I will see you very soon.